Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting straight into something that's, well, affecting more and more people. The sandwich generation. We're going to unpack what that actually means, who's in this situation, why it seems to be everywhere now, and, crucially, what kind of challenges folks are facing and maybe what solutions are out there.
It really is fascinating, isn't it? Because it sounds very personal, like just a family thing. But when you start to peel back the layers, you see it's much bigger. It's a societal shift, really.
Yeah.
Pushed by trends impacting, honestly, our whole social and economic setup.
Absolutely. So when we say sandwich generation, what are we talking about? We mean adults, usually in their 40s, 50s, maybe 60s, and they're simultaneously looking after their aging parents while also supporting their own kids. So they're literally sandwiched between these competing demands, often while juggling careers, marriages, trying to have some kind of personal life too. It's done out of love, of course, but it sounds like one of the toughest spots you can be in. This term sandwich generation, I think it first surfaced back in the 80s.
That's right.
But it feels like now its relevance has just exploded. What's changed? Why now?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it gets to the heart of why it's such a pressing issue today. Back then, it was maybe more of an observation kind of niche. But now,
Right.
the characteristics are just way more common. We're talking people with, at least one parent over 65 needing some kind of help, health, getting around, finances. And at the same time, they've got dependent kids. And like you said, it's not always little kids anymore. Often it's adult children, maybe 20s, even 30s, still at home or needing financial support.
Right. The boomerang kids we hear about.
Exactly. And the sandwich squeeze comes because the caregivers themselves are usually right in their peak working years.
Yeah.
Already stretched thin with jobs and careers.
And who is actually doing this caregiving? Traditionally, it's been women, right? Is that changing? And is this like a short-term crisis situation, or is it more long haul?
You're right. Women definitely still carry, let's say, the main load statistically. But we are seeing more men stepping up, taking on these really vital roles. That's a pretty significant shift.
Yeah.
And to your other point, no, it's rarely just a sprint. Sometimes maybe, but often, especially caring for elderly parents, this can go on for a decade, sometimes longer.
A decade. Wow.
Yeah, it's not just a moment. It's a really significant chunk of someone's life. Needs a lot of sustained energy, resources.
Okay, so why? Why is the sandwich effect getting so much more intense right now? What are the sort of big trends driving this?
Well, there are a few things hitting all at once, creating this kind of perfect storm. First, and maybe the most obvious one, is just plain longer life expectancy.
Yeah.
People are living well into their 80s, 90s, which is great, obviously. But it does mean more years where health problems can crop up, needing significant care. It's a side effect of medical progress, really.
That makes sense. More years, potentially more years needing help. But what happens when you add in things like, say, healthcare costs? Are they keeping pace?
Not really, and that's the second big factor. Even if you have insurance like Medicare or private plans, there are often huge gaps. Things like long-term care, help at home, certain prescriptions, they might not be covered fully or at all. And these out-of-pocket costs, they can absolutely drain savings. It's a financial shock many families just aren't prepared for.
Terrifying. And what about the kids' side of the sandwich? You mentioned the boomerang generation.
Exactly. That's the third piece. You've got economic pressures.
Yeah.
Student debt is huge. Wages haven't kept up for many. Housing costs are through the roof. So young adults, they're either taking longer to become independent or, they move out and then boomerang right back home.
So parents are supporting adult children for much longer.
Right. Sometimes well into their late 20s or even 30s as another layer of financial and, frankly, logistical demand.
And then almost like the final ingredient in this pressure cooker, people are having kids later in life now too, right?
That's the fourth factor. If you have children later, you might still have teenagers, maybe even college-age kids, right when your own parents are hitting their 80s or 90s and needing more help. So everything compresses. The care needs for both generations hit you smack in the middle of your career. It's a lot.
Okay, let's really unpack the toll this takes, because it sounds like it goes way beyond just being busy. Let's talk about the emotional side first. What does that look like?
Oh, the emotional landscape is incredibly complex. Think about it. You're caring for a parent who used to care for you. That role reversal, it can bring up so much. Grief for how things used to be, a sense of loss for the parent you knew, and often immense guilt, especially if you have to make tough decisions about their care or money, maybe decisions they don't like or resist.
And I imagine there's guilt looking the other way too, towards your own kids, feeling like you're shortchanging them because your parents need so much.
Precisely. That conflict, that pull in two directions, it's constant. And all that juggling, the emotional weight, the sheer workload, it leads straight to burnout. We're talking about juggling work, parenting, elder care. There's just no time left for rest for yourself. And the chronic stress, studies show it can actually impact your brain, your ability to think, make decisions.
It's not just feeling tired then, it's deeper.
It's a fundamental kind of depletion. Yeah.
It sounds like your whole sense of self can get lost, like hobbies, friends, your own goals. They just disappear.
For many, they really do. People often say they feel like their identity is just gone, wrapped up entirely in meeting everyone else's needs. It's a profound loss of personal space.
Wow. And if the emotional and mental load wasn't enough, then there's the money, the financial strain. This part seems particularly daunting.
It's huge. I mean, the core problem is trying to fund two generations at once. Maybe you're trying to save for your kids' college or help them with loans while also paying for your parents' medical bills or maybe assisted living or home care aids. It's like trying to fill two buckets with holes in them.
And I guess this has to affect work, right? Their careers.
Oh, absolutely. Almost inevitably. Caregiving demands often mean cutting back hours, maybe passing up a promotion because you can't travel or take on more. Some people end up leaving the workforce entirely for a period, and that directly hits your lifetime earnings. And really critically, your own retirement savings.
So you're paying out for everyone else.
Right. Paying out of pocket for health care for both kids and parents, meds, equipment, maybe ramps for the house, therapy. It adds up incredibly fast. And people often end up dipping into their own retirement funds just to cope, which sets them up for financial insecurity later on.
Yeah.
Really dangerous cycle.
And then there's just time.
Yeah.
The one thing you can't make more of. How does that pressure show up day to day?
Time just becomes this constant juggling act, a zero-sum game. You're always on call for unpredictable crises. You know, an elderly parent falls, ends up in the hospital, bang goes your work week, your kid's schedule.
Right.
You're spending hours on the phone, insurance companies, doctor's offices, driving parents to appointments, trying to get to your kid's soccer game, sometimes all in the same day or week. Even when you think you have downtime, it's often filled with caregiving tasks, admin, planning. There's just no mental space left to actually rest. It's constant multitasking, always being a little bit on. And this relentless pressure, it doesn't just stay mental or emotional, it takes a physical toll. What's really striking here is how caregivers often develop stress-related health problems themselves. We see higher rates of things like high blood pressure, heart issues, even diabetes. Chronic fatigue, lack of sleep, they're almost universal. And that, of course, increases the risk for depression and anxiety.
It's just the ultimate cruel irony, isn't it? You're so focused on keeping everyone else healthy, you end up sacrificing your own health in the process.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Oh.
Okay, let's zoom out a bit. We've talked about the personal experience. How does this whole sandwich generation phenomenon connect to the bigger picture, the economy we're living in right now? Why is it especially tough today? Right, because the personal struggles are definitely amplified by these bigger systemic issues. Housing costs are a perfect example. You've got adult kids maybe stuck at home because rent or buying is just impossible. At the same time, their aging grandparents might need super expensive assisted living or round-the-clock home care. It's two massive housing pressures hitting one family, often one budget.
So it's not just a squeeze, it's like being squeezed from both ends on housing alone.
Exactly. Then you throw in inflation. Everything costs more: groceries, gas, utilities, those medical copays. Salaries, for many people, just haven't kept up. So the money you do have just doesn't stretch as far, making it even harder to cover needs for two generations.
And retirement?
Well, that's the other big one, those old-style pensions. Pretty rare now. Retirement security really depends on you consistently putting money into things like a 401k or an IRA. But how are you supposed to do that consistently, robustly, when huge chunks of your income are going to immediate caregiving costs? It creates this long-term vulnerability for the caregivers themselves.
Okay. So facing all this, the emotional drain, the financial strain, the time crunch, the health risks, what can people actually do? Are there strategies to cope?
It is incredibly tough, let's be clear. But yes, there are definitely strategies, vital ones. First off, and this one is often the hardest, setting boundaries.
Yep.
You have to figure out what's truly realistic for you to provide with your time, your energy, your money, and then communicate that clearly, kindly but firmly to your family.
That sounds difficult, especially with family.
It is, but it's about self-preservation, so you can keep going. Another crucial step, getting financial planning help. Seriously, a good advisor can look at the whole picture, the immediate costs, your kids' needs, your long-term goals, and help you figure out a path, hopefully avoid that financial cliff.
Okay, boundaries, financial advice. What else?
Lean on your support network. Friends, other siblings if you have them, neighbors, community groups. Look into local agencies on aging, see if there's respite care available. Respite care gives you a break, even just for a few hours. You absolutely cannot and should not try to do this all alone.
And what about taking care of yourself? That always seems to be the first thing to go when you're overwhelmed.
It often is, but it absolutely cannot be optional. Things like exercise, getting your own checkups, maybe talking to a therapist or joining a support group, these aren't luxuries. They're essential maintenance for you, the caregiver. It's that whole put your own oxygen mask on first thing. It's true. And one more thing, plan ahead. If possible, talk to your parents before a crisis hits. Get those important documents sorted. Wills, power of attorney for healthcare and finances, advance directives.
Having those conversations early?
Yes. It avoids so much chaos, heartache, and often expense when an emergency inevitably happens.
Right. Now we're in 2025. Technology must offer some help here, right? It's not going to solve everything, but surely there are tools.
Oh, definitely. Tech has made some things easier. Telehealth is a big one. Reduces travel time for doctor visits, makes specialist consults more accessible sometimes. There are also medication management apps, simple things, but they can send reminders to both the caregiver and the parent, which really helps with adherence and cuts down on worry.
Okay, that makes sense. What about coordinating things, especially if multiple people are involved?
Shared digital calendars are huge for that. Getting siblings on the same page or coordinating with professional home care aides, everyone knows who's doing what, when. And then you have things like wearable health monitors, devices that can detect a fall or maybe monitor heart rate and send an alert to the caregiver. That provides a layer of safety and maybe some peace of mind, especially if you can't be there 2,000 in theater.
So yeah, not a magic bullet, but definitely tools that can chip away at the stress and the logistical nightmare.
Exactly. They don't replace the human element, the actual care, but they can free up significant time and mental energy. They provide support that just wasn't there even, say, 10 years ago.
You know, this whole conversation, it really brings up a bigger question, doesn't it? What are the wider implications here for society? Because the struggles of this sandwich generation, they really shine a spotlight on some pretty critical issues we need to tackle together.
Like what? What are the big takeaways for us as a society?
Well, probably the most urgent one is the need for affordable, accessible elder care. As populations age, good quality long-term care can't just be a private family problem. It needs to be seen more like public infrastructure. Then there's the workplace. Companies need to recognize this reality, offering things like flexible schedules, maybe remote work options, paid family leave, even elder care resource referrals. That's going to be key for retaining experienced, valuable employees who are navigating this stage. It's a smart business move, not just compassionate.
So, better care options, more flexible workplaces.
Yeah.
What about government policy? Absolutely essential. We need to talk about things like expanding tax credits for caregivers to offset some costs, more funding for subsidized respite care programs so people can get breaks, and maybe looking seriously at how Medicare covers long-term care needs, because right now the gaps are huge. These are systemic changes that could make a real difference. It needs to be a national conversation.
So wrapping this up, the reality for the sandwich generation, it's just incredibly unique, isn't it? And so demanding. It's this constant high wire act, juggling time, money, emotions. And it's characterized by unpredictability, intensity, and just this huge emotional weight.
It is. And while it's incredibly challenging, we should also say it can be deeply meaningful too. Caring for two generations. It can strengthen family connections. It allows aging parents to maintain dignity. And it certainly sets an example of compassion for the kids involved. But and this is the crucial, but without enough support, without planning, without those boundaries we talked about, it absolutely can lead to burnout, serious financial trouble, and health problems for the caregiver.
And it seems clear, with people living longer and economic pressures not really easing up, this isn't a temporary phase. The challenges of the sandwich generation are becoming maybe a defining part of middle age for millions.
That seems to be the trajectory. The key, really, is recognizing how complex this stage is, seeking help early, whether it's practical, financial, or emotional, and advocating for broader policies that support caregivers. So maybe the thought to leave everyone with is this. As these trends continue, what will you do to understand this better, maybe, or to support the people you know who are right in the middle of this complex, often invisible balancing act?